Well, hey guys, good morning. Big A coming to you live from the station camp Greenway, just like always. It's pretty cold out here this morning. It's like single digits wind chill factor, so I had to get all bundled up this morning. I want to tell you what prompted this morning's thought. I had lunch with a guy last week, and we were talking about business. This guy's been a great guy in our community. He's been following me for a couple of years, and I finally got a chance to meet with him here in Nashville, and we had lunch. And during the course of our conversation, it came up about a new product that he was trying to launch. And I said, well, hey, why don't you just get 3 or 4 of your trusted advisors, get somebody that is in your sphere of influence, get guys that you've built relationships with, and get a general consensus and see what they think, because they've known you for a long time. And he looked at me kind of sad, and he said, I don't have 3 or 4 people that I trust. And I didn't know what to say. I'm normally not a person without words, but I honestly didn't know what to say. This guy's 35 years old. He doesn't have 3 or 4 people that he trusts that he could go to and talk to about this new product launch. And I want to talk to you just a little bit about the value of relationships. And you say, Big A, you talk about relationships all the time. You know why? Because it's that important. And I guess I really want to drive home the value and the importance of relationships. I want to take you way back, if I could, just for a minute. Some of you guys are going to have to go because this is a little lengthier than I normally do, but I think it's worth telling the story. When I was 6, 7, 8 years old, I used to go over at my grandparents' house. They lived here in Nashville in a little country area called Edenwall. And my grandfather worked for the railroad, and we would go over to visit with him. And there was a little country store 2 doors down, and Mr. Hertz is the guy that owned that. It's amazing that after 50-something years, I still remember his name. But my grandfather would take me over there, and he would go in and do his grocery shopping, and there was these glass jars that were full of candy, cookies and all kinds of stuff. Some of you don't even know what I'm talking about because it's so long ago. But I would get out some candy, and then my grandfather would get a cup of coffee, and he and Mr. Hertz would go out on the front porch, and they would sit down and they would talk and they would share. And I grew to really enjoy going down there, building that relationship. Well, time goes by, and we move a few miles away, and there's a little store called the Bread Box. And I would go in the Bread Box when I was 9 years old, and I would work in there. Bob was the guy's name that owned that. And he would take me to his other store. He had 2 locations. And then he would take me home. I was 9 years old. And I would go in there and stock the shelves for him, and we built quite the relationship. Well, a few years later, it goes by, Robin and I get married. We have 2 kids, and we moved to Goodlettsville, just outside of Nashville. Bob Galbraith owned Galbraith's Grocery. And I used to take my children up there, and they remember going in there barefooted. I don't know why that was a big deal to them. They remember that. Bob would always give them a sucker. And Bob one day asked me, he said, I heard your dad was sick, and I wanted to check on him. We're going to prepare some food for him and take down to your parents' house. My parents live not far from there. My point is the relationship, right? The people's name that I remember as a child going through that process. And then we kind of outgrew Bob's, excuse me, and we started shopping at Publix, which was in Goodlettsville, just off Long Hollow Pike. And we would go in there, and then all of a sudden, nobody knew our name. They recognized our face because we were in there all the time, but they didn't know our name. Shortly after that, they started allowing you to check out on your own. You could go through. You didn't even have to talk to the cashier, so the cashier didn't recognize you any longer. Not only did they not know your name, but they don't remember you come in because you check out yourself. And that bothered me a little bit. I'm like, I kind of like people calling my name. I like to go in places where they know you and you're able to build that relationship, and they ask how your dad is, and they check on him because he's sick. And now you can get online, and we do this. We're guilty of it. I'm not saying that I'm throwing stones. I'm saying this for a purpose here in a minute. We go online now, and we grocery shop online. And so we pull up at Kroger, they load the car, and then we go home and take our groceries out. Well, Publix sent us a notice the other day, and they said, Listen, now you can order online. Use your little card that you go through with Publix. You think they're doing that for your benefit. They're doing it for their benefit. They're building a profile on you so that your shopping can become automated. And now they have a lock that they can put on your door, and they bring your groceries in and put them up, okay? Automated, automated, automated. Well, first of all, I don't know about having somebody in my house when I'm not there, but there's cameras that they can set up so that your house is protected, and they come in and put your groceries up. Well, I told Robin the other day, I said, there's only one step left. I said, I'll come to the dinner table and there'll be a note one day that said, hey, your food was good. We just thought we'd let you know. We're eliminating all of the relationships in our life. And that's what I thought about with this 35-year-old young man that I had lunch with. He has nobody. You know why? Because we sit at home and we automate everything. We don't go to the grocery anymore. We don't talk to people anymore. They don't ask how your kids are anymore. And I'll be honest with you, we get upset at our children because they don't know how to interact with the community and the public. They don't know how to say yes, sir, and no, sir, and no, ma'am, because they're not interacting with anybody. Guys, we got to be careful because automation may be at an expense that you don't want to pay. We've got to be careful. I love automation. I love technology. There's probably not a more progressive thinker, 57 years old, that you know than me. I love those things. But what I know better is that relationships are the key to everything. If we don't have those relationships, we're going to never be able to excel. People tell me oftentimes, Big A, how do you excel at some of the things you do so fast? I have relationships. I love people. I want to ask about their families. I call people and check on them. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else. It's just that I got 4 decades of business experience, and I know that relationships is your key component. When we eliminate that, sure, it'll be faster. It'll be all those things. But when you go to launch a new initiative, you don't know anybody. There's nobody there to help you. A guy told me the other day he had 15,000 friends on LinkedIn. No, you don't. You have 15,000 acquaintances. They're not friends. They don't know you. They don't know anything about you. They can't ask about your parents. They can't rub your little kid's head and give him a sucker. They can't treat him to a candy bar, and they can't sit on the front porch and drink coffee with him because they don't know you. And I want to tell you guys, listen, pay attention, automate, do the technology, do all those things, but never do it at the expense of the relationship. People matter. I'm just telling you, at the core of everything, it's people. It's not automation. It's not how fast can you get there. You know, the other day I had cable and it downloaded 17 megapixels or bytes or whatever you call it a second. Well, it wasn't fast enough, so I got fiber. Excuse me. 1,000 megabytes per second. And while the guy was putting it in, he said, you know, they have boosters now that you can get 3,000 megabytes per second. I'm like, are you kidding now? I'm dissatisfied and I don't even have it yet. Listen, guys, how fast do you need it? I mean, how quick? My point in saying all this is good. I love it. I love the way things are going as far as making ease. But please spend some time to build those relationships. You know what's sad to me is many of my grandkids are not going to have these memories that I've got in building these relationships with people because they got people delivering their groceries and putting them up for them now. We're cutting out. I had a friend of mine the other day, very, very successful guy in business. He told me he hadn't been in his bank in 5 years. He's not been inside the bank in 5 years. You know, I'm old school. I like going in the bank. Bill Seals is my banker, Volunteer State Bank. And I have followed Bill around for 30 years. He's been my banker. 4 different banks he's been to. I follow him around. You know why I follow him around? Because I'll look up sometimes. He'll come walking in my office with a box of donuts or a cup of coffee and just say, hey, man, I just come by to see you. He cares. I went through the drive-thru not long ago. Somebody knocked on my window, and it was Bill. Rolled the window down. He said, I know Robin had a little procedure, and I just wanted to check on her. Is she okay? Well, guys, you can't get that if you're not building relationships, if you're not out. Now, if I need something at the bank, I can call Bill, and he can help me take care of it. Amazon, largest sales company on earth. I have an e-commerce business. We do real well with that. 21 days. Listen. 21 straight days it took me to get somebody on the phone to correct a problem because they said this team doesn't talk to people. You can only email them. And I'm like, I got to get a human being on the phone. I have no relationships with people. I know I'm a little bit excited about this morning, and I know I talk about relationships a lot. It's important. Guys, you have got to take the time to build the relationships. Call people when you don't need anything. Check on them, because people matter. And then when you get ready to launch that new initiative, you've endorsed them, you've loved on them, you've called them, you've built a relationships. They're not acquaintances. They're relationships, and relationships matter. If you think it's money that builds the relationships, I'll leave you with one last story. I've told you many times, my dad was an amazing man. Never made any money in his life. But people loved my dad. He knew how to build relationships. When my dad died, it was standing room only at the funeral home. 6.5 hours the line was to the parking lot. It took an hour and a half to get through the line. They had to open up 2 additional rooms at his funeral. People standing only. People standing outside on the porch. They couldn't get in. You know why? My dad loved people. And people love my dad. It's not the money. It's that you care. It's right here. It's that you care about people. And when you care about people, you watch and see what happens to your life, your children, your grandchildren, and your business. Never profit over people. It's always people first. Well, I'm Big A. I better get out of here because I am a froze gentleman. Single digit wind chill factor. I think it's 15 degrees today. But hey, we make commitments. We got to stick to them. I'm Big A, coming to you live from the Station Camp Greenway. You guys get out there today. Build a relationship. I promise you it'll be worth it. We'll see you.